And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land. Hi, everybody. And as you can see, Rich and I are in the same place today. We won't stay on this camera long because it's hard because then I'm looking this way and not that way towards Rich. And it feels kind of awkward to not look towards Rich a little bit. So, Rich, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. And you forgot to welcome the folks that could be watching us on the YouTube.
Yeah. So, welcome those. Rich, how was the drive up? How's it going so far? How's the week?
It's been going good. So the drive up last night wasn't too bad. I thought we got up here a little earlier than I thought we would. Not being able to leave until about 3:45 from the Quad Cities. So getting up here at 9:30 was decent.
Yeah.
Had a nice Quick Star cheeseburger on the road up. So
they're not bad.
No, they're not.
They're not bad. They're doable. So, yeah. Well, Rich, let's tell the fine folks what we're doing in today's show. We have some final baseball talk of the year.
Yeah, one more, at least until there's more news in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a feeling we're going to have some bad news. We're going to have to talk about it in baseball later on this winter.
Yeah, we will. We do have some conversations to have about some food being owed to somebody.
Yeah.
And then we also have our second to last NASCAR corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as always, we'll be talking about the NFL and a continuation of a quick hit from last week.
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't catch that, so I'm glad you brought that up. I'm excited about it. But first, folks, it's time to roll the intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. So, before we get into all of that, Rich, we have a poll question for the week. Meatballs, chicken wings, or corn dogs? What do you think?
I'll give you my opinion while you bring it up because you've got bigger and more monitors, more screens than I do.
Yep.
So I went with chicken wings.
Man, I love chicken wings. I really do love the taste of chicken wings. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking about tailgating, okay, one of the keys to tailgating is mobility.
Okay.
And only one of these is very mobile. Because we didn't specify mini corn dogs. We said corn dogs.
Yes, we did.
And with corn dogs, those are on a stick. That's why they make great fair food, folks. And so I went with the corn dog. But overall, we had 20 votes this week.
Wow.
Yeah. 15 of those votes, chicken wings.
Okay. So my wife was originally looking over this. I'm sure she voted. I don't remember what way she voted, but she looked over this and she said, "This isn't tailgate food. This is more like fair food."
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I can understand that you don't see too many things. Unless you're deep frying, unless you're bringing like a deep fryer to the tailgate with you, it would be hard to do the wings or corn dogs right there on the spot, which kind of brings up what we're using for this week's poll, which almost got me thinking that maybe we need to modify it and maybe go with either a tailgate or a couch gate a little bit.
Yeah.
Or do we just omit these three, Mike?
Yeah,
because they're really not like a main dish. This is the three
corn
items.
dogs can be main dishes, especially if you get that giant foot long and whatnot. But again, you don't eat that at tailgating. You're right. This is not tailgate food, Rich.
I know. I was struggling to find things, but we'll keep them in the mix. We'll keep them in the mix. But my question is this tailgate food comes down to what I have on the docket for this week,
Oh,
which is mac and cheese, a 7-layer dip, or a buffalo chicken dip. So do we need to maybe table what our poll is going to be for this week, and maybe go and maybe start the next phase of the poll, which is taking all the food items that won, and then starting those as a poll.
let's throw it out there. Why not?
Let's go for it.
It's just random food that we associate with football. How about that?
Okay.
We'll
And
just
that we
change
like
it
to
from
eat.
tailgate. Yeah.
Tailgate, Couchgate, I guess.
Couchgate, Super Bowl party food type stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So look for that to go live after the show sometime. It's going to be later than normal because we're starting later than normal. But yeah. So we found out this week who won the World Series.
Yeah. It was.
Are you happy about who won, or did you? I mean,
I almost felt like this was kind of like a meh.
Okay.
Didn't care too much about who won. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, for wanting to get a free lunch, I wanted to see the Astros win. Getting to see Dusty Baker win a World Series
Yeah.
would have been nice. But I mean, I'm not.
By the way, you called them the wrong name.
Okay, they lost. So the Asterisks.
The Asterix.
Okay,
Yeah, the Asterix lost.
Houston. Just call them Houston, not
The
not by
Asterix. No,
okay.
I'm gonna call them the Asterix.
Okay.
I'm gonna. You don't
Okay.
have to. So you picked the Asterix.
I did.
Yeah, you picked the Asterix. Was that taking pity, or did you actually think they were gonna win?
I thought they could win. I mean, they had some good comeback wins in their series against Boston,
And the Braves have been a terrible. Like, they haven't been a great team all year. They've been decent, but they've never been great this year.
they got hot at the right
They
time,
got
and they probably faced the Dodgers at the right time when
Yeah.
injuries were finally starting to catch up with
Yeah.
them.
So, honestly, and Braves fans out there, I love you all. You know that we have lots of friends of the show that are fans of it. I'll give some shout outs. Brandon Close, super happy. He's a Braves fan. Rich Lively, a big Braves fan, and then the owner of our NASCAR Corner sponsor, Mike, is a Braves fan as well. Third generation Braves fan.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So, it was good to see for them. It was good. Like, I celebrate with friends when they win. So,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was a little bit of a surprise.
Yep.
Because, I mean, Atlanta had to do 2 bullpen games.
Oh, yeah.
And the more times you see those relievers come out of the bullpen, there's more tape
Yeah.
that you can look at. And, I mean, the Astros having a history of being very analytical driven and video data,
You mean cheating?
if that's what you want to call it.
The way that they did sign stealing, they used video data and analytics in that way. Yes, it is part of analytics, but the way they used it to win the World Series
3 years ago.
3 years ago was cheating.
Okay. But I would have thought with the bullpen games and having starting pitchers that were probably only going to go 4 innings tops.
Yes.
That eventually there would have been enough tape on those relievers, the same relievers that were coming out of the bullpen in high leverage situations to get the game to the 9th, that eventually they would have caught on to tendencies and would have been able to see it, but it just didn't happen.
I mean, they failed.
Yeah.
They failed as a team, and either way, great to see. So you have on here an article that says the 7 teams that need a World Series the most.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, so I'll let you break it down. You probably read the article.
So this was like an article that came out a couple of days after the World Series that MLB.com put out.
Yep.
So that I don't know if they put these teams in any. I believe they did put them in a particular order.
They did.
So the first one was the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
I can see the Brewers.
Never won a World Series.
No, I think they won
And
one
I think-
in '82.
So are they putting all 6 teams that have never won a World Series on here plus 1 team?
No,
Oh, okay.
this is where I don't agree with the list. So the second team, which I can see, the Cleveland Guardians or Indians, whatever they're calling themselves now.
Yeah. after the Cleveland lawsuits.
Yeah, they haven't. They have the one of the longest droughts in Major League history right now since the Cubs snapped theirs 5 years ago.
Yeah,
totally agree with that one. The New York Mets coming in at number 3.
Weird. Wow. I mean, I guess because they are in the big city,
and they're second fiddle.
Their second fiddle. Yeah, that makes sense. I can understand that as a statement. I don't necessarily agree all the way, but yeah, that makes some sense. Then we had the Padres at number 4.
I can get the Padres.
Yeah, the Padres. I mean, they haven't won one, have they?
No, they've never won one, and yeah, they haven't been to a World Series since I think they got swept by the Yankees in the early 2000s.
Yeah. So, okay.
Now, the Tampa Bay Rays, number 5.
Again, I don't think they've won one, right?
They have not. They've come close. They
should have last year, but they failed to. They couldn't get over the hump of the. I mean, the Dodgers were on fire last year, so
yeah,
that's not.
I mean, the thing with the Rays though is you'd like to think that if they could win a World Series,
yeah,
that could kind of bring in new fans into their fan base, into the ballpark and everything.
They were in the World Series last year.
And they still can't draw during the regular season.
And they still have one of the lowest attendance in the regular season.
And they've had consistent winning ball clubs.
Yeah, they have good teams.
Within, the last 10 years, if they're not making the playoffs, they're right in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
All year.
So
they still can't fill the ballpark.
They can't get people there. I don't get it. And then the last one? Or no, we have 2 more. 6.
The Minnesota Twins.
Again, never having won one. That makes sense.
They've won 2.
They've won 2. Oh yeah, that's right. They won in the 80s and then
one in the 90s.
The late or the early 90s. Yeah, okay.
Now number 7, I can't get behind this one.
Okay, what is it?
The New York Yankees.
What? Legitimately, folks, I have not read this. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would the Yankees be on this list? I mean, they're expected to win every year. So the years that they don't, it's a disappointment? Is that all? I mean, I don't...
So here's their wording in the first one.
Okay,
fine. It's a little ridiculous to put the Yankees on here, which it is. There are literally 20 teams who haven't won a World Series since 2009. But try explaining that to a Yankees fan. The Yankees went a whole decade without reaching a World Series for the first time in more than a century.
They want me to feel bad about this?
I guess so. I mean, I would think that you put a team like the Seattle Mariners on this list.
The Mariners, who have, at one point in time, at multiple points in time, have had the greatest player playing the game at that time. Ken Griffey Jr., come on now.
Yeah, and then had Ichiro for many years.
And then Ichiro.
And couldn't get over the hump.
The 2 of the greatest players we've seen in our lifetimes.
I mean, even putting the Angels on here, get Mike Trout a championship.
Yeah.
Not on there.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 teams for me that I'm surprised were omitted. I don't, for me, putting the Mets and the Yankees on there was really surprising. But this was just a random article that came across as one of those pop-up notifications because I have the MLB app on my phone. So I skimmed it, and it seemed like a good discussion for the show.
I mean... The Yankees, The Yankees is the one team on there. The Mets, I'm okay with. I can actually make an argument for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won in a while. They're not. I mean, they're the second fiddle. So being the second fiddle. I mean, the White Sox. The only thing they have going for them is that for years they were the better team in Chicago, even though everybody loved the Cubs. That's kind of what the Mets have. They don't even have that. They just need to win. So I can make the argument that the Mets, it's okay for them to be on there. But nobody, and I mean nobody's going to convince me that the Yankees deserve to be on a list of 7 teams. I can see them in the top 10, maybe. You give 2 more spots. You give the A's and the Mariners in there? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see the A's as well.
Yeah.
A World Series championship for the A's could go a long way to getting them the new ballpark that they should have had 20 years ago.
Heck, you even put the Angels, the A's, the Mariners. Those 3 teams deserve to be on there before the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that Yankees one doesn't make sense. The rest of them I can make arguments for. The Yankees, I can make an argument that they need to be in the top 10 in that list because it's been a decade. It's the first time in over a century that they've gone a decade without making the World Series at least. You can make the argument that that they're expected to be one of the great teams in the world, in the country, in the majors, but no.
All right. So that's baseball. Probably won't be talking baseball for a while unless.
Well, we didn't. So, what did you think of the game? What did you think?
You know, the one thing that I was kind of surprised about is that I think it was Game 5. They made a big deal about how they moved Alex Bregman down in the lineup because he was just struggling. And then you hear post-game and even during Game 6 about how Yordan Alvarez just was a shell of himself. He went from being like one of their best players in their series against the Red Sox and just did nothing in the World Series. Why wasn't Alvarez moved down?
There was a lot of stuff that I didn't get all the way.
Pitching, I mean, I thought, even the game would have been 5. I think it was 5 where it seemed like Dusty made the right moves. Yeah. But 2 wrong pitches to Swanson and Soler swung the game that gave the Braves the game winner. Yeah. Won the game for him. So good for Jorge Soler though, a former Cub.
And Jock Peterson.
Yeah.
Both former Cubs. Like recently. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jorge, it's been a few years, hasn't it?
Jorge left after the World Series team.
Yeah. So, and then Jock was only there. I mean, he was a short-term guy late last year, like trade deadline.
He came on board. He was the replacement for Schwarber.
Oh, yeah.
This year.
So, good. I mean, he still was a Cub. Cubs fans generally keep fit. As a Cubs fan, I have always cheered for Cubs players because the closest thing to seeing the 90s Cubs win a World Series was seeing Greg Maddux pitching for a World Series as a former Cub.
For me, it's really hard. It was really hard for me to see. I don't consider Greg Maddux a Cub almost.
Really?
Because he left. I mean, that was 89, so I was...
I got to see it. I remember seeing games of him playing.
I don't recall... I just don't remember him as a Cub.
Okay.
Because when I first started following baseball, collecting the baseball cards, he was an Atlanta Brave by that time.
Yeah, I have very early memories in general, but some of my early... I do remember watching Greg Maddux as a Cub pitch a game. Not live, but on like WGN, Quad City, or no, it would have been Fox Sports or Fox Baseball, Fox Saturday Baseball in the afternoon. So
I just never thought of Greg Maddux as a Cub until he came back after he had
won the World Series.
Yeah, after he had pitched with Atlanta for almost a decade.
Yeah. So, like, it's funny because he always gets recognized as the Braves pitcher, Greg Maddux, and I'm like, but he was a Cub. Didn't he start with the Cubs?
He did.
And then end with the Cubs?
No. I think he bounced around a couple of... I think he came back to the Cubs, and then the Cubs traded him to somewhere else.
Yeah, he came back because he was going to retire a Cub, I think, is what the initial plan was. But then they were like, well, you're not doing what we want. We're not giving you the opportunities, I think is how they said it. And so they traded him away and did nothing with those prospects that they got for the guy because they sucked in the 90s. And
No, he was with them in the 2000s. That was, I think, the team where you had Maddox. I think that they Maddox was brought in to be like the 4 or 5 starter.
Oh, okay, yeah. I remember now. Either way, it was one of those things where I remember him as a Cub early, and then I remember him as a Cub later in his career. And so for me, it was like, okay, he was a Cub. So I always think of Greg Maddux as a Cub.
I don't.
But I get it. Like, I understand. I have a freakish memory that remembers stupid, weird things from before most of my peers can remember them, which is weird, but it's fine. So yeah, but either way, as Cubs fans, for years, the way that you figured out who you were cheering for in the World Series was who has the most Cubs players, former Cubs players. Because how many times have we seen guys that played for the Cubs get traded away and then make a World Series, and we're like, but they weren't that good for us. Makes you wonder if the team was the problem more back then than the players themselves, huh?
That could have been the case.
Okay, moving on. Rich, do you see what's coming up?
Is it a left turn?
It is a left turn. Do you see what's after that?
Is it another left one?
It's another left turn. These are the final left turns of the year. Not because we're not going to have a NASCAR corner next week, but because it's the final race of the year. We are heading into the NASCAR corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs in Moline or online at their eBay store.
All right,
Once
Mike.
again, that's Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated.
All right, Mike, while you're looking up the fantasy NASCAR shout-out numbers, let's give you who's going to be alive in this week's race and who got eliminated after Martinsville. So, eliminated due to their finish at Martinsville will be Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney. Going for the championship this week in Phoenix, it'll be Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, and my pick of Martin Truex Jr.
Okay, before we get into the race, let's give you the shout-outs for last week's race. Before we give you the details on how everybody did and the controversy that was the near end of the race, and then the end of the race. So in first place, Tony the Funkhouse took first place this week with 200 points. Rich, you made some gains so that you're no longer. I think you put Solomon away this week with a 179, and Solomon got 164. Finally, I brought up the rear with 143. But that's because I picked Denny Hamlin and
So what are the standings in the playoffs and the regular season for going into the final race, Mike?
So, Rich, you have overtaken me for second place in the playoffs.
Okay.
Solomon is Dupo 24, first place, still has a commanding 200-point lead in the playoffs. You are in second with a 28-point lead. Very, very doable for me if I play my cards right. Then me, and then Tony.
Okay.
So, and then overall, it is you by it's 180 points. I think that's more than you can actually score in a week. I guess if you win everything, Solomon. Pro tip from, I'm going to give it out there. Pro tip from Rich. Rich gave me this tip. The championship drivers are not eligible for stage points in this race. They don't count. It's a win. It's who finishes the race first. That's all this one is. That's
the only points they'll be able to get. So if they win a stage, they will not get those 10 points.
If they sweep the entire race, they don't get those 10 points.
Nope.
So you could, in theory, have your guys getting. You could pick the winner and still lose the points race in fantasy NASCAR. Just a top tip for anybody doing fantasy NASCAR. Okay. Now let's get into the race. Man, it's Martinsville. There's bumping, there's banging, there's pushing people out of the way. But man, did it get ugly at the, what was it, the 4:30 mark, I think is where it was.
I think so.
It was late in the race where
Bowman and Hamlin.
Bowman spun out Hamlin to win the race. He ended up winning the race. But Hamlin had a car that was up front all day looking like he was going to get a win. Like, I thought he was going to get a win this week.
And Bowman, as a non-playoff driver, raced him hard just like any other race.
Pushed him out of the way. And caused... I mean, Denny still made it into the playoffs. into the championship weekend, but he finished 24th on the week last week. Really, really hurting my points there. You with Martin Truex Jr. got 4th. Denny Hamlin took 24th. That's our playoff drivers. Our non-playoff drivers, Christopher Bell got 17th. William Byron got 5th.
All right, so that puts the playoffs at 11-8.
Yep.
So if your two drivers finish higher than mine,
And one of them wins,
we
we tie.
Even in the also in the final, in the full season, because I'm only up by 3 in that race, as it's 26-23.
Yeah. So this week, the championship race, for the championship, who you think's going to win the championship this year?
Well, before we get to there, we got to talk about what happened at the end of the race between Hamlin.
Yeah.
Hamlin and Bowman as well.
Yeah, so Bowman is going to do his burnouts and all that and his celebration, and in comes Denny Hamlin's car and just parks it right in front of him. And Bowman goes around him and
tries to do a backup.
Yep.
Tries to back up.
And Hamlin just drives his car into, puts him nose to nose and does a burnout while pushing him.
And gives him the 2-finger salute.
And gives him the hello, I love ya salute. And then speeds off. Bowman does a little bit of a burnout, grabs his flag. And then Hamlin is asked, what was that all about? And Hamlin's like, well, he just sucks at driving.
He's a hack driver. Everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it. He's a hack. Yeah, either way, man, fireworks, and that doesn't even include the ones that blow up.
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw something that where, like in an interview earlier, where from the same track, maybe a couple years ago, Hamlin was the one that did the wreck, pushed somebody out of the way to win. And his post-race comments when they're interviewing him about the win is, well, that's just how you race at Martinsville. That's short track racing.
Yeah,
and then turn around when it impacts him. That's a hack driver. You don't do that to a guy that's in the playoffs in a position to win, and you're not a playoff driver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't deny that all of that sounds like a BS type move. But hey.
Yeah, when we were watching the interview, the anti-Kyle Busch fan that my wife is, she said that sounds like something Kyle Busch would say, not Denny Hamlin.
Ooh, that's a stinging accusation there. I think the accusation that Denny Hamlin made was kind of stinging myself, but
You still made the playoff. I thought his comments would have been okay. I would have been more accepting of his comments if that 24th place finish and him wrecking out
would have
caused him to fall below the cut line. But he clinched his position. He probably knew it when he was going around the track for those last couple laps when he knew he had a spot clinched.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying, but it would have been nice to see him get the win. This week,
you just wanted those 2 points.
I did. This week's championship points or championship race. We are picking our champion this week.
We are.
Are you sticking with your pre-postseason?
It's not a confidence pick. It's not a confident pick, but I'm gonna stick with it.
Okay.
Truex is in the hunt for the championship.
In the same way you picked the over for the Bears.
Yeah.
The same type of
gonna go for it.
Confidence in that. Okay.
I'm gonna go with Martin Truex.
I'm gonna go with the guy that's just dominated this year. He has been the dominant racer this year,
especially with this rule package.
Oh yeah, I'm picking Kyle Larson.
I don't blame you one bit.
Kyle, I don't be surprised if he doesn't win the race. He races really well he'll race really well at Phoenix, and he'll do a great job. Who you picking non-playoff? Who you picking non-playoff drivers, Rich?
Non-playoff. I'm going to go with William Byron.
Okay, I like that pick. I picked him last week, and he did well for me. I'm going to pick Kevin Harvick. He loves Phoenix as a racetrack. If you look at his history, very few double-digit. He's most of the time in the top 10. Look for him to do real well this week. Folks, Don't forget to set your lineups. It's the last week. We will tell you who wins the playoffs, the overall, and the for the fantasy next week. And Rich, do you want to do the read or do you want me to?
You're better at the read. You always remember to do it. So I'll go for it.
This has been the NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs at their Moline location or online at their eBay store. Once again, that's Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Let's head over to the gridiron, where we have we have sports to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We have murders to talk about.
Yeah.
And we have liars to talk about. All in the NFL.
Yeah. So,
no surprise on any of that.
All right, Mike. So
recap from last week?
Yeah. While you bring up the pick'em standings, I'll give you the recap of Week 8.
Okay.
All right. So the Bears lost 33-23 against the 49ers, improving. So we are both 6-2 in picking games for the Bears. The Bears sit at 3-5.
Okay.
Lock of the week. We both got them. The Bills beat the Dolphins 26-11, and the Rams beat the Texans 38-33. I'm 8-0. Mike, you're 7-1. The upset special, that didn't come through for me, as the Eagles won 44-6 against those Lions. That was bad. Mike, you got your upset as the Steelers beat the Browns 15-10. So we're both 4-4 on the upsets.
Not bad.
And Thursday Night Football, I forgot to put the score in there, but I know the Colts won.
Yes, they did.
It was a lot closer game than I thought it'd be. I was watching the game.
Both picked the Colts?
Yeah, we both picked the Colts. I was watching the game mostly because I had people in fantasy playing it both for me and against me in that game, so I was trying to watch it on my phone.
I didn't watch it at all. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch a single second of it.
It was a lot closer than I thought it would be.
I guess I watched the last minute of it. I suppose I did. Or no, that was the Monday night game. Thursday night, I was doing other things. I didn't even care.
All right, Mike. So
more importantly, before we get off of this last week's stuff, I'll give you how we did in the pick'em. Then we'll get into some analytics of games that were played, and then the news stuff that goes around with all of it. So I won by a significant margin this week.
You did
11-8 over the Midget Nation in second place. Midget Nation took second place.
It was a bad week.
Good job, Junior. Good job, JR. You took second place. We're proud of you. You got 7 points. 7.
Hey, I still outscored Solomon, who
you did.
Who is still choosing not to make any picks.
Who is watching? We told you to do this. I'm gonna kick you. We're gonna end up kicking you off, Solomon. You don't pick any games this week.
I don't think we can kick them out.
Oh, okay. Well, either way. D's picks again is missing D's picks.
We don't know but at least D's picks had picks in week 1 or 1 though.
Yep. So that brings our overall totals 82, 81, 66, 9, and 0. Me, you, Midget Nation, D's picks, and Solomon. Okay. So,
so before we get into
biggest games of the week last week.
Okay.
Actually, before we get into the news, let's talk about some games.
Okay.
Bears game, overperform, underperform, marginally acceptable, or like exactly where you thought they would be. Let's answer that one first.
I was expecting better. I mean, they held, the defense seemed to have was holding it together and keeping things close.
The other thing was, like, I don't know how you expect them to be any better.
I don't know anymore.
You still think they're going to make that over?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how, but they're
yeah. How about the biggest loser that won the game this week? Kansas City. Winning by 1 field goal? 1 field goal. And didn't they play the Giants?
Yeah, they were playing the Giants, who
That-
were without some of their best skilled players.
That should have been a 109-0 score. Wait, that was a high school score. Legitimately a real high school score this week. 109-0. By the way, we also have to talk about the other high school score that made national headlines this week. 72-94.
Was there any defense being played in that game?
I don't know, but Rock Island High School was on that game.
Really?
Rock Island High School lost that game. You scored 72 points.
And you lost.
And you lost by 22.
Was there a lot of garbage time in that game? Or
How
was
is
it
there,
back and forth?
How is there garbage time? Like, yes, 22 points is huge, but in the scheme of 72-94, that 22 points is not a huge margin when you're talking that many points, right? I mean, it's not.
I wouldn't mind seeing the box score from that game.
I'm really intrigued. I haven't been able to find it, but man, Rock Island High School, by the way, that was it.
Cool.
So, okay.
Any other games from that week?
No, the big one I was wondering about is, did you think the Kansas City Kansas City lost by winning? Even though they won, they still lost because their points, they needed to blow them out. I actually, just a quick preview, I don't even have them in my top 10 anymore.
Neither do I.
And it's gonna.
They needed those. For you, they needed those style points in a game that they should have won.
They needed to look like they had this game handled, and they didn't. It was a battle. And I understand we talk about that the NFL has decent parity, but we expect the Kansas City Chiefs to be the team to be a great team. They didn't look like a great team playing the Giants this week.
All right. So with the Chiefs, Mike,
Yeah.
is it starting to see that all the money that they've invested on the offensive side of the ball
Oh yeah.
is with them relying on veterans or that one defensive player that they paid a bunch of money for?
Yeah.
Is that assembling their defense like from the bargain basements and just having just a disproportionate pay scale between the offense and the defense is finally starting to reveal itself because they can't stop anybody.
Yeah, there's some of that, but I also think that the league has figured out how to play Patrick Mahomes.
That as well, yeah.
It's not just you can blame it on the defense. The defense isn't stopping people well enough, and they didn't look like an elite team this week against the Giants, where the Giants kept up with them. But they didn't look like an elite team on the offense either. They're spending all that money on the offense, and all they could put up is 3 extra points.
So do you think they extended Patrick Mahomes too early?
No, I think Patrick is worth it. I think because again, the way that his contract is, it's not his fault that they're cash strapped.
Okay.
They still have a few years of him being a bargain. I mean, bargain is a relative term, but they still have a few years where his contract isn't so heavy that it's burdening them. It's the rest of the guys. It's the fact that they're just the way that they play, the way that they're setting up their offense is no longer doing anything to it's not this razzle dazzle. Nobody's impressed by the razzle dazzle anymore.
So could this be hurting Eric Bieniemy in getting a head coaching job?
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially if he's the person that he's calling the plays, designing the offense every week.
Yeah.
He's not going to have the look at what I did with Kansas City. I can do this for your team too.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know what they're doing with that. It's crazy because to me, Kansas City should have won by at least 20 points. That offense is supposed to be this high volume offense. It's we score so many points, and they could only put up 27 points. 24? It was something low. I mean, granted, we say 20-something points as that being low nowadays. It used to be, when we were kids even, it was 21 was a decent score. 3 touchdowns in a game, you were considered, or 4 touchdowns in a game. Yeah, 3 touchdowns in a game, you were considered a good team. That's weird. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
As a kids, we thought 3 touchdowns on a team was great. Now we're disappointed, and for that matter, a team that let's be honest, is in our bottom 5-ish, probably.
Mm-hmm.
If not, they're the 6th team. They're one step out, but they're one of the worst teams in the league. Still set up as still put up 21 points.
Yeah.
Still got their 3 touchdowns. Okay, so let's move on to this week.
Yeah.
If you're ready. Did you have
I'm
anything
ready.
else to talk about on that?
No.
Did you have any other thoughts outside of what I was articulating with the...
Nope.
Okay. This week, we are looking at week 9. We got to go to news before we do that.
Yeah, let's talk NFL news that could impact week number 9.
All the stuff. Let's start with the most benign-ish.
Okay.
Odell Beckham Jr. has been released from the Browns.
Yeah.
He's turning into a whiny little punk that doesn't want to play for anybody, but thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Odell, prove it to me.
Exactly. What not 3 years ago you had him, you drafted him number 1 overall in fantasy.
And nobody thought that was a crazy pick. They
didn't.
Let's put this out there. 3 years ago, that was not a crazy pick.
No.
Now, I would be embarrassed. Like, I wouldn't draft him number 1. I wouldn't draft him in the first 5 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been the same since that hamstring injury.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that I think it was his dad, Odell Beckham Sr., put together a highlight tape about how the Browns and Baker Mayfield were misusing him, overthrowing him, not throwing to him when he was open.
Baker apparently not getting pressured, but running around like he is, and then not throwing the ball to Odell. Either way, OBJ, you...
I mean, I think somebody's going to sign him.
He's going to get signed.
He's too talented not to get signed.
Yeah, he'll get signed. It's just, is he worth it? Is he worth the drama? Where do you think he goes? I actually just thought this one up.
Okay.
I think I got a good place for him.
Go ahead.
Who's going to tell him, I don't care about your BS off the field stuff. You're going to either do it my way or you're not going to have a job. And I'm big enough I can make it so that you don't get a job in the league.
You go on the Pats?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Pats was one of the teams in an article
and
that I saw.
They need another receiver. Edelman is not the Edelman of Tom Brady.
That's because he's retired, Mike.
Oh yeah, but who do they have up there that's worth anything? Odell would become the number 1 receiver up there probably.
Yeah.
So A, he gets to be the number 1 receiver. B, he gets a coach that will discipline him in a way that says, quit being a whiny little punk. Be a grown man and do your job.
Okay. I'd have to say maybe a good fit for him because maybe he can blend in. I'd have to say maybe the Chiefs.
Okay.
To give Patrick Mahomes another weapon. I don't know if he'd be happy with the targets that he would get there. So playing in an offense with Kelsey and Hill.
Is the price worth it? Are they going to get him at a price that's worth it?
I think at this point you can sign him for the league minimum because the Browns are taking on the rest of his contract.
Okay.
But maybe even the Saints with Sean Payton, putting him in Sean Payton's offense.
Maybe. I don't see a great.
Or for transition purposes, maybe even the Raiders since they lost a wide receiver this week.
Yeah. Speaking of which, how did they lose a wide receiver this week?
Well, they're the number 12 overall pick 2 years ago.
Yep.
He was going really fast and late night in Vegas.
And murdered somebody.
Yeah, 156 miles per hour.
And on top of it, he was drunk.
And he had a gun and a loaded gun in the vehicle.
The loaded gun part, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not. Again,
not as big of a deal when you consider that he hit a car.
If he was being safe and he was doing all that, like, yes, he was intoxicated. Maybe his friends decided they wanted to have drinks, so he's like, okay, let's go. Like, I don't know how the night went out. This is all going to come out
exactly.
Eventually.
Those details aren't known. What we do know is he was driving 156 miles per hour.
Yes.
He ran into a car in front of him.
Yes.
And that
killed the lady.
And her dog.
And
the car was in flames.
She wasn't married to a guy named John Wick, was she?
I don't think so.
Because he'll die. He'll just straight die. And injured the person in his car.
His girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah. Recklessness.
Mm-hmm.
Pure recklessness. You were drunk driving. You were intoxicated enough to be above the legal limit. You were driving at a speed for which you probably shouldn't be doing on surface roads in a major metropolitan area.
Or really any city.
Any metropolitan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing it in a city or town. If you want to do it, go out to the desert. There's plenty of desert out there that you can get your car up to 156 miles an hour without worrying about it. And not worry about the fact that you're going to plow into some lady and kill her. You got to live with that now.
Yeah, with the way that the Nevada state laws are, he could face, I think it's a really wide margin here, but he could face 2 to 30 years in prison for manslaughter because he was over the legal limit and classified as drunk.
That's fine. I hope he gets the 30 years. He won't. He may get the 2 years.
I think it's going to probably be somewhere in the middle, but at the
same time, I think
he's
going to get the minimum.
At the same time, I could see the state throwing the book at him.
I hope they do, but I don't think they will.
He's done in the NFL.
I wouldn't even put it. Michael Vick, Ray Lewis.
The difference between those two guys and Henry Ruggs is that they were great all-pro players. Ruggs still had not established himself on his own to being the best wide receiver on his team, let alone the league.
There's a third name, though.
Okay.
Like it's Aaron Hernandez. He was not an all-pro. He was good, but he was not all-pro level. He murdered a guy in Florida in college. Allegedly. And still got drafted and got to play in New England.
And got a couple Super Bowls.
Murder is not something that's going to take you out of it. Drunk driving. He didn't abuse the woman. He was dumb and killed her. He didn't do anything that... Yes, he did things that violate... I mean, getting any crime technically violates the conduct rules in the NFL. Technically, committing any crime is part of the conduct rules. Conduct detrimental to the league.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, he didn't it wasn't anything out of the ordinary for NFL players. So,
yeah. The thing that I've never gotten when you see all these NFL players saying that they got busted for drunk driving or disorderly conduct in establishments and everything is when it at least comes to drunk driving. I've always wondered, you've got the buddy there. Tell him to drive the vehicle.
Bro, it's even worse than that. Every NFL team, the NFL as a league for players has a drunk hotline.
Exactly.
You call this number. It is in your phone. They say, hey, here's the number. Put it in your phone. This should be under ice in case of emergencies. If you are drunk, call this number. Someone will pick you up within 5 to 10 minutes. That's all. 5 to 10 minutes. And somebody will pick you up, and it's not going to be a ready like me in my 2003 Toyota Camry. It's not me in a 2003 Toyota Camry picking you up. It is, you're going to get an SUV, a nice SUV, going to pick you up. A cleaner is going to be there with you to throw some money at people at the bar saying don't say anything. But instead, you decide to go out and be drunk driving and kill somebody.
If I had that much money, that much talent, I don't think I would be driving myself anywhere. Either somebody's going to drive my nice fancy car for me. If I'm going out on the
I
on
drive
the town
myself.
for the night.
I don't mind driving myself. But
I mean, at least he had it had to have been more than just him and his girlfriend.
oh yeah,
Where
yeah,
he could say, "All right, you're my fall guy.
yeah.
Sorry, I know you're in worse shape than I am, but I can't drive this."
Yeah. I can't, because as soon as you do that, you're saying, I don't care about my career anymore.
Yeah. Have your buddy drive the car for you.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Okay.
I don't know.
We still, all of that news, those were big deals, right?
And that's not the main story in the NFL this week.
The biggest story in the NFL this week, Aaron Rodgers is a liar. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a liar. He was directly asked, well, first let's give the news. The news is he got COVID. The other news, it came out that he is not vaccinated. He did not get the vaccine. In the preseason, he was asked, Aaron, are you vaccinated? And his answer was, I have been immunized. I have been immunized. There are plenty of guys on the team that are not vaccinated. I support your right to choose. That's what it was. He has not been vaccinated, and he indicated that he was. He also at press conferences never wore a mask. Now, I'm not being political. I don't care about where you stand on this issue. That's up to you, your family. If you've been vaccinated, good for you. If you don't think you need the vaccine, that's fine. But if there are rules in place where you are at that say you need to do something, you need to follow the rules. In the NFL, they have rules that say he needs to wear a mask when he's doing press conferences if he's not vaccinated with one of the vaccines for which they have approved. He was not vaccinated with any of the vaccines that were approved. Whether or not take the politics out of it, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care if you. I don't care if you want to be vaccinated. Don't want to be. I don't care about that. The rules state if you don't have this, you have to wear a mask at all in the facilities, on the sideline, and when you're giving interviews. Correct?
I think the sidelines are now optional.
Okay. I thought it was optional only for vaccinated players, not non-vaccinated players. Either way. How about in the off season, in the preseason? Only active players are allowed to not wear it. That's what it is. You're right. Mm-hmm. It is optional for active players. He is an active player, so on the sidelines he doesn't have to. But when he goes into those meetings, or when he goes into interviews and all of that stuff, supposed to be vaccinated or supposed to have a mask on. That's the rules. In the team facilities, when you're at meetings, when you're all that, supposed to have a mask on. We had Kirk Cousins say, "Put a shield around me, and I'll run my interviews there outside in the freezing cold." I don't care. He stood up and said, "This is my stance. This is what I'm doing. I will do all of the things required of me if the NFL says this is what's required of me." Aaron Rodgers says, "I've been immunized. I'm safe." There are guys on the team that are not. I don't judge them. You indicated you were vaccinated. You have behaved like you are vaccinated. Now that you're not vaccinated, guess what? You have to suffer the consequences. Will he be fined?
Yes.
Will the team be fined?
Yes.
So he's out this week. He's out next week.
But I don't think that he will lose any games out of this, though.
He's missing this week.
Other than the mandatory quarantines.
Okay. So he won't be suspended.
No.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be suspended or administratively.
And
he won't miss any games.
Technically, he comes back next Saturday is his first eligible day back. Saturday. He cannot be in the facilities. He cannot work with the team through anything outside of Zoom until next Saturday, a week from today.
So if he's going to play next week, it'll be the night before walkthrough, non-physical contact walkthrough.
At best. That'll be the first time he can do that.
Yeah, so I could see him out 2 weeks.
I think it'll be 2 weeks, but it's Aaron Rodgers. I never put anything past him.
But yeah, I totally agree with you that, I mean, it's fine if you want to be vaccinated. It's okay if you choose not to take the vaccine. And I can understand Rodgers' reason for not getting the vaccine. He laid out some very good points. The blood clot issues with the Johnson or with the Pfizer one. Johnson
& Johnson. And then there was something else in the Pfizer one. He
was allergic to active
ingredients
in Pfizer and Moderna.
Pfizer. And the Moderna one, he had an issue with some other stuff that gets into much more political stuff from what I understood. I thought that had to do with some of the tissues that were being harvested and
maybe it was. But anyway, he chose not to take the vaccine for very good reasons.
He had very great reasons, I would say. But he had very good what seemed like legitimate reasons.
Yeah, and he did try to petition the NFL with his treatment plans to show that, hey, this is just as good as being vaccinated. Can I be considered safe and get the same rights as a vaccinated teammate or a player in the league? It was denied, but he still acted as if he was a vaccinated member of the team.
Even crazier, he is more upset. He doesn't care about missing the games. Not upset about that. Not upset about failing to get his the approval for him to do whatever, for him not to have to be or for him to act like a non-vaccinated player. You know what he's upset about?
What's that, Mike?
The fact that people found out that he was not vaccinated.
So he's okay. So he's okay accepting the fact that he can't play, and it's because he got COVID.
Yep,
that happens. Okay,
he's fine with that. He's apparently super angry that the world found out he was not actually vaccinated.
Well, look at all the political and public backlash that Cole Beasley, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz went through when they were asked the same question as Rodgers and said, I'm not vaccinated and I'm not going to take the vaccine for these reasons. And you had everybody in the media calling these people selfish. They shouldn't be on the team. You should cut them. And now Rodgers is getting the same treatment.
Yeah, and apparently, and
on top of that, he lied about it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, he legit lied about it. Like, all the other stuff in the world, fine. I don't care. The fact that you're lying about, if you believe high enough that you're willing to make the argument against the vaccine and all this stuff, that's fine and dandy. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that.
Do you think?
But if you're lying about or if you're lying and or misleading, which they're two different things. So he misled people when it came to the statement, I've been immunized.
So here's a question. Go ahead and finish your statement, Mike, and then I got a question for you.
He did not lie. He just misled you. He believed he was immunized with this treatment. Being immunized is not necessarily the same thing as being vaccinated. Being vaccinated is taking the vaccine. Being immunized according to Rodgers,
Mm-hmm.
is taking alternative treatments to get the same result. That's what he's saying. That's how he's parsing it out. Now, so I wouldn't say that. Sure, that's not a lie. Well,
He misled them.
He misled them, but he didn't lie. But behaving in a way that says you're vaccinated, knowing you're not, when there are rules in place, I would call that a lie.
Okay.
The next problem. Oh, you had something, so you go.
No,
and then,
I think that now I've got my own question answered. The thing that popped in my head is if he had gone to the press. I guess the first thing is, was it wrong for the media to come out and openly ask players, "Hey, are you immunized? Are you vaccinated? Or what's your stance on the vaccine?"
yeah.
Because to me, almost a little bit of like maybe HIPAA comes into play. It's like, if you don't openly want to tell people whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, that's why does this need to be made public or not? Because, and if he had made the statement of that's between me and the NFL and the trainers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer that question. Next questions. Or dodging the question to say, all right, is there a question about how I play the game or about the upcoming season that we can talk about?
Yeah, and I'm okay with I'm okay with most of this stuff. There's some craziness going on. I'm not, but yeah, if he dodges the question, if he does all this other stuff, that's where it's better. But the way that he's handled it, he's dead wrong.
But yeah, it's really surprised me how much negative coverage this is getting, to where you had a guy in Henry Ruggs that killed a person.
Yeah.
And that's not the major story running the week in between the games.
Nope. The other side of that, and I can't find it, but there are reports that he also said something to the effect of that he's not one of these flat earthers or crazy people. He's a critical thinker. And that's why he didn't. And, whatever. Do what you do, but don't.
Everybody has their own reasons for getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated.
You told us your reasons. You don't need to do much more than that.
But he chose to reveal those reasons through his weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show after it broke that
after
all these stories broke, not at that press conference where he said, "I'm immunized." And
the press conference was preseason, not So, okay. Real quick,
but maybe even is the media to blame for some of this too, because nobody at the press conference poked a little further and say, "Well, that didn't answer the question. Did you take the vaccine or not?"
I would say that his statement indicated that he did take the vaccine.
Okay,
that would be my statement on it. Okay. We are more than an hour into the show.
All right, let's give him picks for week number 9 and
our top 5.
Yeah, we'll just do
top 5, bottom 5.
Okay.
Bears, Steelers. Who you got Monday night?
I don't like the Steelers, and I need to get the Bears to those 8 wins, so I'm going to say the Bears.
Yeah, good luck on that. The Steelers going to win. I'm going to make that one. I'm going to win that one. You're going to go down again, but that's okay. This week, lock of the week. It's an odd week. That means I get to pick first. I'm picking the Bills over the Jaguars.
I like that pick. I'm going to go the Rams over the Titans.
That's a great pick too. That's actually a slightly scary pick, but I still think you're
the Titans got to figure out how their offense is going to run without Derrick Henry now.
Yep, and oh yeah, we forgot to mention that Derrick Henry's out.
Yeah,
Derrick Henry was injured in a football play, and we still didn't even talk about it because all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. How ridiculous!
Upset special, Mike.
Upset special of the week. I am going with the Texans over the Dolphins. Two teams, neither one really wants to win all that much. Look for the Texans to have a surprise victory.
I don't mind that pick. Tyrod Taylor's back under center. So, and the Dolphins are playing bad right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Panthers over the Patriots.
Not a terrible pick. And then Thursday Night Football, Ravens versus the Dolphins. Is there really a question about this one?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on.
Ravens.
The Ravens win. Okay, top 5 in our power rankings, bottom 5 in our power rankings. We're going to do that real quick. Let me do a quick edit. Rich, who do you got at number 1?
I went with the LA Rams.
Yeah, that's the number 1 team in the country right now. They look amazing, and they're only getting better. ELO had them at 5. Power rankings put them at 4 because of the ELO.
Another thing that got lost in the shuffle, Von Miller.
Yeah.
Going to the Rams.
By the way, that defense just got better, and they were the number 1 defense.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I have, this is going to shock you, Rich, the Dallas Cowboys.
I went with the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh.
because of that big victory over the undefeated Cardinals without their 3 top wide receivers.
And normally we try to put our eye test as just that, what we've seen. I let the news break in this week and did it after the news, so that's part of why I didn't have them at number 2. They probably would have been otherwise.
I don't disagree with you putting the Cowboys that high, though. They've been playing great football this year.
Number 3.
I went with the Cardinals.
Again, we agree. Arizona's at number 3. Number 4 is where I have the Green Bay Packers.
That's where I put the Cowboys.
Okay. Now, again, I can't argue with that. I think these top 5, I mean, man, I don't think there's huge arguments about it. And number 5, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I went with the Buffalo Bills.
I like that pick. That's my number 6. Who you got number 6 real quick?
The Bucks.
And I think we agree on 7.
I put the Baltimore Ravens here.
Yes. 8 we agree on, and 9 we agree on. The Raiders and the Titans respectively.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 10 we disagree. Who do you got number 10?
This is where I put the Bolts.
I like that. I actually put the Cincinnati Bengals.
I have the Bengals right at number 11, Mike. So
Okay.
not that far off.
This is where the Kansas City Chiefs are out of number 1 because of that, or out of the top 10 because of that loss. They have dropped out of the top 10 this week. Or the win that they lost.
So where'd you put them?
I put them at 11.
I have them at 13.
Probably the accurate place to put them, but it's still,
they're beating the teams that they should beat, but not by very much.
Not by enough.
And they're losing to
Right.
teams that they would probably run into if they make the playoffs.
32, who you got?
32, the Detroit Lions.
Yep. 31.
This is where I put the Houston Texans.
Okay. I put the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. I have the Jags at number 30.
I have the Houston Texans at 29. Once again, ring that bell. We tie
The Dolphins.
the Dolphins.
Okay.
And at 28, I have the Jets, Jets.
I put the Washington football team.
Again, I don't think that's a terrible pick there. These teams.
The Giants beat the football team, so that's why I had to put the Giants at number 27.
27 is where I have the Giants as well. And who do you got at 26?
26. Who'd you put at 28?
Oh, 28. I put the Giants.
Okay, who'd you put at 27?
Oh wait, hang on. No, 28 was the Jets. 26 was the, or 28's the Jets. 27 is the Giants. 26 is the Washington football team.
I put the Jets at 26.
Okay, so our bottom
of the 2-win teams, they have beaten better teams than the other 2-win teams, beating the Titans and the Bengals.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing. I'm okay with that.
I was tempted to put them higher up in the rankings, but I couldn't because they also lost to those teams.
So thank you for joining us this week, Rich. Here in studio, it's been great seeing you, and we have a bunch more stuff to do this weekend. If nothing more, we're just gonna play some football on the Xbox
Or some board games.
We might. It might be nap time.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Okay, if you don't want to hear about Masked Singer, hang up now. Forever hold your peace. Come back when you're ready for it. The right person. So now that that's done, 3, 2, 1. The right person went home. It was the beach ball. They sucked.
They were. That had to have been the worst performance that I've ever seen on that show.
I don't know if it was the worst, but it's pretty bad. I mean, we had Danny
Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
But he did too. He got to perform twice.
And he sucked both times.
Okay.
And I think the Joker sucked.
They were better than whatever the beach ball was trying to do.
I agree. Then we get the beach ball. Mama June, I think is her name, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Honey Boo Boo. So, Mike, if the beach ball wasn't involved on the show,
why would you let those two do a show?
I don't know. They had two reality.
We've seen
They
enough.
had two reality shows come out of it. So, anywho,
Those
taking
two,
the
it
beach
was
ball,
so terrible.
taking the beach ball out of the equation.
Go back to doing crack.
Who would you have voted to leave? Hope to have left the competition?
The worst performance of the week had to have been performed by the Mallard.
Yeah, I was disappointed with the Mallard. I thought that he would be better singing a country song.
Hey, well, we might take a road trip, and I'll call him. I'll call and check and see. My parents are heading to Buffalo Center right now, apparently.
Really?
So they might come up here. I don't. Okay, so our family or our show shout out, which if we would have ended before our Masked Singer update, we wouldn't have had one. But Sue Hart says they're heading to Buffalo Center.
Okay.
Comment shout out. If you want to get a shout out via comments or thumbs up and all that stuff, you jump on facebook.com/fans or /balls and sticks, or check us out if you want to participate in our poll questions at facebook.com/fans of balls and sticks, and you can join us there to watch the show live or all of that stuff. Rich, if they are watching us live and all they want to do is put us in their podcast and listen to us there, what should they do?
Search for Balls and Sticks wherever you find your other podcasts.
And finally, Rich, if you're listening and you want to watch us but you don't need a shout out and you don't like Facebook, I don't blame you. There's lots of reasons not to like Facebook. If it wasn't for the show and letting family see pictures of my baby girl, I wouldn't probably be on Facebook anymore. But check us out at YouTube. Google's not much better.
Yeah. If you're watching us on the YouTube, make sure to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment. It helps with the algorithms.
Ring that bell.
Ring the bell. Yeah.
And subscribe. All that, and time to roll the outro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.